Fire is falling out of the sky, and I am inside it. The shuttle spins twice before the canyon floor rushes up and slams the breath out of my chest. Metal screams. Something in my side cracks with a white flash of pain, and then everything goes still except the ringing in my ears and the hiss of coolant leaking into the dust. I claw the harness off and drag myself out through a gap in the hull before the smoke thickens. My name is Daniel Ashford, Xenobiology Tech, and 30 seconds ago, I was running air samples over the Kethryn Rift. Now I am standing in a canyon that is not on any of our star charts, holding my ribs together with one hand. The ground shakes before I even hear it coming. Something enormous rounds the canyon wall, and for one full second my mind refuses to accept what my eyes are showing me. It is easily 40 meters long, covered in scales that shine like hammered iron, with eyes that glow like twin furnaces about to burst. A dragon, not a myth, not a legend, a living, breathing creature the size of a warship, and it is looking directly at me with an expression that promises nothing good. Human, its voice is a deep, grinding rumble, like stone dragged across stone. You have crashed into the cradle. Do you understand what that means? I do not understand what that means. I do not have time to find out, because that is the exact moment I hear crying. Not the dragon in front of me, something smaller and closer, coming from a pile of broken rock where my shuttle clipped the canyon wall on the way down. I do not think it through. Thinking things through has never been my strong suit, according to every performance review I have ever received. I just run toward the sound, my cracked ribs screaming with every step, while the enormous dragon behind me watches in what looks like pure confusion that I would move toward danger instead of away from it. Under the broken rock are 3 small shapes, each one barely the size of a large dog, hatchlings. Their wings are still damp and folded wrong against their bodies, and one of them has a twisted piece of my own shuttle's landing strut pinned across its leg. They are shrieking, high and frightened, thrashing against rubble they cannot move on their own. I do not have tools. I have my hands, a jacket, and maybe 90 seconds before the full-grown dragon behind me decides I am a threat worth ending. So I start pulling rock away with my bare hands. The strut across the smallest one's leg will not budge at first. I brace my boot against a slab of stone and pull until my palms tear open, and finally the metal groans and slides free. The hatchling looks up at me with eyes the color of melted copper, makes a small cracking sound like a door hinge, and then does something I am not prepared for. It crawls straight into my lap. Its snout presses against my chest, leaving a smear of dust and blood, and it goes still, like it has just found the safest place in the entire canyon. The second hatchling follows a heartbeat later, dragging itself over broken stone to press against my side. The third limps after it, favoring an injured wing, whimpering the whole way, until all 3 of them are curled against me, trembling, small hearts hammering so hard I can feel it through my jacket. I look up, fully expecting fire. Instead, I get silence. Not just from the huge dragon standing over me. From everywhere, I had not noticed until this exact second that the canyon walls are lined with them, dozens of adult dragons perched on high ledges and tucked into deep crevices, every single one frozen in place, like the whole world has paused to watch. Because apparently, in dragon culture, an injured hatchling does not crawl toward a stranger. It flees toward its own kind, toward the nearest dragon, toward scales and warmth and safety it already knows. It does not crawl toward a soft, hairless creature a third its size, holding nothing but torn hands and a jacket. The huge dragon takes one slow step forward. Its massive head lowers until one glowing eye is level with mine, close enough that I can feel the heat rolling off its scales, like standing near an open furnace. "They chose you," it says, and the anger in its voice has been replaced by something closer to disbelief. Cradle hatchlings do not choose. They are bonded by blood, by scent, by the old bond passed down through every generation. In 4,000 years, no hatchling born in this canyon has ever crawled toward anything that was not one of us. They were hurt, I say, and it sounds foolish even as the words leave my mouth. I could not just leave them buried under rock. You could have, the dragon says quietly. Most creatures would have run at the sight of me. Most would have left 3 strangers to die rather than risk facing my anger to save them. I look down. The smallest hatchling has already fallen asleep against my collarbone, breathing in tiny soft huffs. The one with the injured wing is still shivering, but its claws are hooked loosely into my sleeve, refusing to let go. Where I come from, I say, you do not leave children buried under rock because you are afraid of what might happen to you. You get them out first, and deal with everything else after. The silence that follows stretches so long I genuinely believe I have said something wrong, something that will end very badly for me. Then the great dragon throws its head back and makes a sound I have never heard before. Not a threat, not a roar. Something closer to a laugh, deep and rolling, shaking loose dust from the canyon walls above us. 4,000 years, it says, lowering its head again until its snout nearly touches the ground in front of me. A gesture I will later learn is reserved only for kings and queens. And it takes one injured human with no weapon, no armor, and apparently no sense of self-preservation to remind us what the old bond was meant to be, before we buried it under ceremony and bloodline law. You will be called Cradle Friend. The hatchlings have marked you as kin, and that bond cannot be undone. Not by me, not by the council, not by anyone. Before I can find anything to say to that, a new voice cuts across the canyon, sharp and urgent. Elder Vashtir, the ridge sentries report movement from the eastern pass. Ashen wing riders, closing fast. A second dragon lands hard beside the elder. Smaller, faster, scales a deep slate gray, eyes narrowed with alarm. My stomach drops. I do not know who the Ashen Wing Riders are, but the way every dragon on the ridge suddenly tenses tells me it is nothing good. They must have tracked the crash, the elder, Vashtir growls. They will claim the cradle has been defiled by an outsider, and they will use it as reason to strike before the alliance talks even begin. I feel the hatchlings stir against me, sensing the shift in the air. The smallest one wakes and presses closer, letting out a small, frightened sound. Then let them see what actually happened, I say, before I can stop myself. Let them see the truth instead of a story built to start a fight. Vashtir studies me for a long moment, then turns to the slate-gray dragon. Send word to the pass. Tell them Cradle Friend himself will speak before the Ashen Wing Riders arrive, and let them see the hatchlings for themselves. 20 minutes later, I am standing on a wide stone ledge with 3 dragon hatchlings curled around my legs like nervous puppies, facing a formation of riders mounted on lean, ash-colored dragons with narrow, suspicious eyes. Their leader, a rider with a scarred jaw and a voice like cracked flint, looks down at me with open contempt. An outsider crashes into our most sacred ground, he says, and you expect us to believe this was some kind of miracle, instead of an act that should be answered with fire. I expect you to look, I say, keeping my voice steady, even though my legs feel like water. These hatchlings were trapped under rubble from my own crash. I could have run. I chose to dig them out with my hands instead, and they chose to come to me for safety. That is not defilement. That is exactly what the old bond is supposed to mean, and every dragon on this ridge saw it happen. The scarred rider's dragon lowers its head, sniffing at the hatchlings, who press tighter against my legs rather than move toward the newcomer. A murmur runs through the assembled riders, quiet and uneasy. He speaks the truth, Vashtir says, stepping forward so the ground trembles beneath his weight. I witnessed it myself. If you wish to start a war today, you will have to explain to the entire council why you chose bloodshed over the very bond our people have sworn to protect for 4,000 years. The scarred rider's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. One by one, the Ashen Wing Riders lower their weapons, and the tension in the air begins, slowly, to break apart like ice cracking under warm sun. By the time the retrieval shuttle from my own people finds my crash beacon 2 days later, word of what happened in the cradle has already spread across the entire Dragon Realm, faster than any ship could fly. I am no longer a stranded technician with a cracked rib and torn hands. I am Cradle Friend, the first outsider ever claimed by hatchlings born in the sacred canyon, and my simple choice to dig instead of run has quietly stopped a war that had been building for years before I ever fell out of the sky. My commanding officer still tells me that running toward danger without thinking things through is my worst professional habit. I tell her it is also, apparently, exactly what it takes to end a war before the first shot is ever fired.